technically very, very difficult day to day. Some of those days when everything crashes altogether, kind of like a Mercury retrograde situation. Did that happen? Did that start already? I don't know. It completely feels like a Mercury retrograde situation. Did it start, Ramona, Jazz? Oh my God, it totally sounds like that. Because my Adobe crashed. I had to download the presentation on WhatsApp. It crashed, and then something else as well. That like completely technology was collapsing on me, and and somehow I don't even have to check when the Mercury retrograde starts. I just get to know because technology or at Winsport starts crashing around me. So I get that natural started. BLS? What's BLS, Nitya? So basically, we have had your three parts of the Prosto series, and we know that how in basic life support, I guess right now I need how everything was collapsing, right? Like I can my Adobe crashed and then my WhatsApp was crashing. I couldn't download the presentation. I'm like, what's happening? Seems like a total Mercury situation. All right, good. We have a lot of believers of Mercury retrograde here, and we get afflicted. So yeah, coming back to, I hope we can have a very good academic session and it doesn't get disrupted more. And today we are having the fourth part of our, and the final part actually of our Prosto series, which is completely complete dentures, situation, and concepts that we would be reviewing. So we will be talking about the complete dentures, the different occlusion types, and then overdentures and edentulous maxillary situation and combination syndrome. Yes, Jazz, I can say it kind of covers all the CD basics. And what it doesn't include is the CD troubleshooting because I have already taken a session on that, Jazz, right? So you have the CD uh, troubleshooting you have, and then combination syndrome class also you have. So briefly, I will be talking in today's class about the combination syndrome as well, flabby tissues, etc, but mostly I will be talking about occlusion. So what because that is the most important CD concept that gets asked, and then we'll also talk about your immediate dentures and relining and rebasing. So most of what CD comes in ADC exam, I will be covering everything on that. So along with that, you have your combination syndrome classes, and then you have your CD troubleshooting guide. So that sums up, and you have your entire Prosto series ready with you now. You have implant series, you have RPD series, and now you have this FPD and CD series as well. So the entire Prosto gets covered, and in exam, there should not be any question now that gets asked beyond these concepts. So we are fully equipped to handle that. Yes, Prosto would be all set, and to test that, after this class, I will be posting one SBQ on Facebook, which you can attempt there. And then also, we are bringing 4 specialized prosto mocks for only our enrolled candidates, which would be made available on our part 1 and full and crash course both. So 4 new prosto mocks will be coming in the coming weeks because they will then help you to completely test yourself, revise, and learn the application of the concepts that you're learning in these classes to actual real time examination questions. And the new specialized mocks that we are making on Prosto are actually inspired and very much in tune and in alignment with the latest ADC questions that are coming, because latest ADC trend is also changing toward material science, onlays, and then your conventional FPDs, yes, but more than that, minimally prepared FPDs, and so cantilevered FPDs and your zirconia material selection. So in alignment with the latest ADC trends, the new mocks are being made because we already had a specialized prosto mock on our full course, right? But now, because as the ADC trends are changing, we thought that as prosto and FPD specialists taking a bigger stage, so why not have a dedicated 4-part prosto mock. Given that every candidate who starts their ADC journey, I think initially feels most challenged with prosto, right? So I think that these specialized mocks and these series in prosto will completely eliminate that fear, completely eliminate that biggest roadblock and challenge that every candidate faces. And I've seen that over the years that every time a candidate joins and their initial fear is this Goliath called prosto, right? So just to get rid of that, just to get your fears away, I think this series is going to be extremely helpful. All right, so without much wastage of time, because tech wise we did, I guess, 10 minutes. But let's start discussing our today's class. So I will be keeping the chat closed. I would request you all to please just be in the receptive mode and please keep your questions towards the end of the class. I will try to cover as many concepts as I can, and most of the other concepts are also covered in 1000 prosto classes, but I will try to talk about occlusion in today's class because crash course candidates do not have 1000 classes, right? So for crash course candidates, my special attention is also for you, that you are getting the occlusion lecture from me kind of like a first time because you don't have the 1000 classes. So use this as an opportunity to learn and understand occlusion in depth. I will be talking about all the kinds of occlusion for dentate and edentulous situations. All right. All right, so let's start with our complete dentures first. That is our first topic. Second would be occlusal changes that happen in my mouth with your partial edentulous situation. That is also important because it affects occlusion. So we will also talk about conformatory approach and reorganized approach in partial dentures a little bit because we are talking about occlusion. And then we will talk about overdenture and then edentulous maxillary situation. So 4 topics for today. So the complete dentures are basically a removable prosthesis that replaces all the teeth in your mouth and associated structures of the maxilla and mandible, and it's supported by your edentulous oral tissues. That's the definition of your complete dentures. So complete dentures are of 3 types, or rather actually 4 types. It is your conventional complete denture, which you fabricate after completing the healing of the extraction sites, which you don't give immediately, but they are given conventionally after the patient undergoes the full mouth extractions and completely edentulous situation is there. And then you allow for the complete healing of the extraction sites, and then denture is inserted weeks to months after your extractions, not immediately, to allow the soft tissue healing. But the benefit of your conventional denture is that it provides better tissue adaptation, and then fewer post insertion adjustments are required, right? When you insert the denture, because the tissues have adapted, because the bone earlier resorption has also taken place, there are lesser post insertion problems faced with your conventional complete denture. The only drawback with your conventional complete denture is that the patient remains edentulous during the healing period, which is also considered like its major disadvantage, because while the healing is happening, the patient will remain edentulous during the healing period. That's its disadvantage. That is why, to combat that, there is another variant of a complete denture which is called an interim or transitional complete denture. Please remember this term when you see interim or transitional. Please know it is not your immediate denture. Okay? I'll tell you how it differs, but this interim and transitional complete denture is not same as your immediate denture, because immediate denture starts getting fabricated before extraction. This transitional denture is during this healing phase, but you don't start making it before extractions. Understood the difference? It is often replaced, and immediate denture continues to be in the mouth and can be relined and rebased, right? Immediate denture continues to remain in the mouth for months or years after relining and rebasing, whereas your transitional complete denture only remains in the mouth during healing phase and is replaced by conventional complete new denture. Is the difference understood between transitional and your complete denture? Immediate complete denture, right? So transitional one is which you will make after extraction. Fabrication happens after extraction. Immediate complete denture fabrication is started before extraction and it is delivered on the day of the extraction. Concept clear or not? Tell me number one concept to take from this class is crystal clear or not? It is delivered, so there is no transition period. There is no edentulous period in an immediate complete denture, but there is one in your transitional denture, and it is replaced by complete denture in within few weeks and months, whereas immediate complete denture remains to be in the mouth maybe for few years. Clear for everyone? Yes or no, please? Right? So your transitional one is not fabricated before extraction. Your immediate one is fabricated before immediate one is fabricated before extraction, and transitional one is fabricated after extraction. Right? Transitional will only be there for few weeks or a month or 2 months max. After healing is done, you will make your new conventional denture. Okay? Yes, no trial is possible in immediate denture. Yes, absolutely correct, Nitya. Now there is a third type of denture which is called overdenture, which is a complete denture but which is supported by your abutments of retained roots or implants. Right? This is your third type of denture. We will talk about this also, whether to keep whole tooth or to keep only roots, in what situation you will keep roots, in what situation you will keep the crown, where you will do elective RCT, where you will not do elective RCT. I will tell you all about it in today's class itself. All right. So hold on till we come to that concept. Now, what are the advantages of your overdenture? That it improves retention, improves stability of the denture. It also leads to preservation of alveolar bone and it leads to better proprioception because of the PDL ligaments. Does that make sense for everyone? Because of the PDL ligaments, it also leads to better proprioception. So in exam, this is a very common question. It's a very, very common and repeated ADC question. Benefits of overdenture. So please know you will choose the statements and options in exam accordingly. It improves retention and stability both. It preserves the alveolar bone and it also leads to better proprioception because of the PDL of the retained roots. Then the fourth kind is your immediate complete denture, which I just talked about as well. That it is a complete denture which is fabricated before extracting the remaining teeth and it is inserted immediately after extraction. Advantage of this denture is that the patient is never without teeth and it maintains the aesthetics, the speech and vertical dimension immediately. Does that make complete sense for everyone? The advantages of immediate dentures are: number one, patient is never without teeth. Number two, it maintains aesthetics. Third, speech is maintained and vertical dimension. Fourth. Okay, these are the benefits. Now, what are the disadvantages of your immediate denture? It is that frequent adjustments are required and relining or remaking needed after healing. Does that make sense? So immediate can continue for few years also, Carolyn. Not necessarily that it will only be transitional. Transitional specifically means during healing phase only. Immediate one will continue even after healing with relining or rebasing. Does that make sense for everyone? How immediate is different from transitional? Transitional is only healing and immediate continues after healing with relining or rebasing. Right? Now, what are the different stages of construction of your immediate complete dentures? That is important. It comes in exam as well. And if a patient is planning extractions, what steps needs to be done before extraction? etc. So impression stage. Now, when it is done before extraction, so you are taking impression with teeth in the mouth. Yes or no, right? So when you're taking impression, you're taking with the teeth in the mouth. So you're going to be using stock trace, which needs to get modified by using your impression compound or impression putty, and to those parts of the trace to record the edentulous areas as well. Some parts can be edentulous, some parts can be dentate, because it would be kind of mixed dentate situation as well. So you might need to adapt your stock trace, and your primary impression is done using your wash material, either your flowable silicone or your alginate, but not your zinc oxide, eugenol or rigid material, because it is a partially dentate situation, right? So you will use your wash impressions material which have better flexibility, not rigid impression materials. So impression compound and zinc oxide eugenol will not be used, as they are used for edentulous sites only. So primary impression is extremely important, and accuracy and correct extension of your stock trace define the quality of your primary impressions. And when primary impressions are done well, that also dictates a better special or custom tray fabrication. So once you have taken the primary impression, second step you will do is your special tray fabrication. Now the main advantage of your special trays is that they can be extended correctly into your sulci, right? In the sulcus, the extension will be more proper, and there will be a uniform space between the inner tray as well as the oral tissues like your teeth, etc. So spacing can be created. And again, the final impression material will also be with your flexible acetylsilicones or your alginate, right? Then after taking your final impression, sorry, after taking your final impression, you would be doing the jaw relationship recording. So ideally, the jaw relationship should be recorded at your correct vertical dimension and TMJ in your retruded position, because right now the patient might have some maximal intercuspation which may not be correlating with your posterior retruded contact position. Is that clear or not for everyone? Because I'm going to be talking a lot about intercuspal position or maximal intercuspation and retruded contact position. So your CO and CR, right, Nitya? Both. Your centric relation is your retruded contact position, RCP. Can you remember these two terms? Because ATC is using these terms now. In orthodontic questions, also this term is also getting asked in crossbite assessment, etc. Remember in the last week class, I taught you that concept, and I told you in ortho series, I'll go more into your ICP and RCPs. Remember everyone? So ICP is your intercuspal position, which is your centric occlusion. So it is interchangeably used. So don't get confused in exam if you don't see the terms your centric occlusion or centric relationship. It can also be called ICP, centric occlusion, which is your habitual intercuspal position. And then is your retruded contact position. Now in your dentures, which is more reproducible? Retruded contact position, which is your centric relationship. That is why when you record, even in your immediate denture, when teeth are present in the mouth, the jaw relation should be recorded at your correct vertical dimension, because there can be extrusion of the teeth, there can be collapse of the bite also. Remember, all this happens in partially dented situation or not? Bite can be collapsed, or there can be extruded teeth also, right? So that is why at a correct vertical dimension, because after giving complete dentures, you must give it in a correct vertical dimension, which is physiologically acceptable, because there will be no more proprioception. Agreed or not? Is it all sounding Chinese, or is it all sounding correct? Right? I mean, I know we do have some Chinese students, for them, even Chinese would be correct, but I hope for majority of us, it's not sounding extremely difficult, right, to interpret. I want you to be very confident in these terms and concepts. I know prosto scares you, but today I want you to leave this class understanding dentures and jaw relation and occlusion like a pro. right? Could you give me that, please? And try to give your full attention and full receptive mode. And please watch this class again, because in one day, Rome was not built, and also not Prosto. Okay? So you will record in your immediate dentures correct ideal vertical, not following the collapsed bite or a raised bite if it is one, because there will be no proprioception to tolerate increased vertical, right? And also with collapsed bite, denture will give you problems of angular cheilitis, etc. And TMJ should be recorded in your retruded contact position, which is your centric relationship. So far, so good. Is it all making sense? Now, usually recording the jaw relation can be complicated by presence of teeth, because few teeth can interfere with recording your ideal vertical or ideal RCP because of the dental interferences. So it can be challenging, right? And especially if the patient has a powerful postural habit, then to ask the patient to take the mandible in the terminal hinge axis, which is your centric relationship or your retruded contact position, or the most posterior position of the mandible, can be challenging because he's habitual because of the teeth. So he will be habitual of that intercuspal occlusion. But you have to record in RCP, because after teeth will be lost, he will not have that guide. Yes. So what will he rely on? He will rely on the RCP. Yes or no, please? Please tell me, is it all coming together and the clouds are disappearing? Okay. Now comes our try-in stage. After you have taken your jaw relationship, then you will take your try-in stage, and the try-in stage has to be done before extraction as well. So only the existing edentulous areas can be tried in. If there is no edentulous area, then a try-in cannot be done. Is that correct, Nitya? If it's a partially dentulous situation, then you can still do a try-in. Okay? But if it's like a completely dentate situation and you're going for full mouth extractions, then you can't do try. Okay. Now, even if there are some teeth present and only few existing edentulous areas, they should be restored with denture teeth set. It will help with your correct shade selection and mold of your prosthetic tooth, also the shape and size of your tooth. And it will also help you check the accuracy of your jaw relations both horizontally as well as vertically. But again, because other teeth which are present can be at the wrong vertical dimension, so they can pose a challenge. But still, you can get the vertical from your prosthetic teeth. Verification of the tooth position can sometimes be difficult or even impossible, because some of the teeth can be drifting and they can also prevent the correct positioning of the prosthetic teeth. Exactly correct, Nitya. Supra eruptions, tilting can also hinder positioning of the teeth. Yes or no? Everybody, give me big yeses if all these concepts are making sense, because these are your examination challenges. You will see an exam will ask you what will be the challenge. So you have to see the tilted teeth, you have to see the supra erupted teeth, you have to see the collapsed bites as well, excessive wear of the teeth also, right? Understood? Now, in cases where your accurate arrangement of teeth is not possible, the wax flange should be adjusted carefully to establish the midline. So where the teeth are always there, right? Sometimes it can be blocked, sometimes it cannot be blocked. If it is getting blocked, you will relieve that area, but test the shade and test the mold of your teeth. Right, Fanny? That is why it is written, it is a hindrance, it is challenging, and it is a difficult procedure. So base plate would have to be cut in those undercut areas, and some areas you may not be able to even put the teeth because of the tilted teeth. That will not be tried in, but other areas will be tried in. Whatever you can try in, you will try. Okay. If nothing, if no teeth is fitting, then at least use the wax to get the center line from the mouth so you can replicate it on your denture, because midline also should be matching with your natural teeth. Okay, so if nothing can be matched, then vertical dimension consideration also needs to be taken. Why? Because when the removal of remaining teeth and the effect on proprioception comes in, as I told you before as well, after you extract the teeth, you are not relying on proprioception. You will remove the tilted teeth, Arshia. But would you remove it on the try-in stage or would you remove it on the denture insertion stage? Do we give you our immediate dentures on try-in day or on the denture insertion stage? So do we do extractions on try-in appointments or on the denture insertion appointments? That is the purpose of giving immediate dentures. Patient doesn't want extractions without dentures, right? So now bringing your attention back, could you please hold on to the questions, because I know it's a very deep chapter, a very, very deep subject. Okay? Can we please hold on to questions and try to receive as much as we can from the class today, and then we can build upon that. Now, I'm reiterating one concept which I just spoke about 5 minutes back as well. Once you extract the teeth, would you have proprioception in mouth or no? Once we extract all the teeth, we will have no proprioception. Absolutely correct. So now, if your teeth were at a increased vertical dimension due to supraeruption, will your denture be able to take up that vertical dimension? No, right? So better is to take your vertical dimension and flask your dentures at your ideal VDR, right? And your arbitrary reduction if there is a supra eruption. Then after adjusting your vertical dimension as per your arbitrary values based on your VDRs, right? Then comes your delivery and post insertion day. On the delivery of your complete dentures, you will do all the extractions on the same day of delivery, right? In your immediate dentures, delivery day is also your extraction day. So delivery of complete dentures at the time of extraction of the remaining teeth will only be successful if you have taken great care and attention in the previous clinical stages of denture making. Patients should be informed that dentures will require adjustment during the early stages to relieve sore spots. Very early, there will be adjustment required on the impression site area as well to relieve any sore spots, because the healing site can be more sensitive. Is that correct? So you should tell your patients that immediate adjustments and multiple adjustments may also be required. After a few weeks, then, right, as healing and tissue remodeling happen, then a temporary relining also becomes necessary. That is also temporary relining because initial healing happens of tissue shrinking and then the initial resorption happens. So it's not one reline can fix all the problem in immediate dentures. It has to be done in stages. Yes or no, please? Immediate, few weeks after, then few months after, and then maybe 10 months after, right? Because it happens in the stages. So your first immediate tissue remodeling relining has to be a temporary relining. After a few weeks, then you can use your self-curing acrylic raising relining material, and then after approximately 6 to 9 months, you may require full rebasing. Does that make sense? So, three stages of correction, four stages rather. One is immediately post insertion. Then is your soft tissue healing, which will be temporary reline. Then comes your few weeks after your soft tissue healing, a self cure acrylic reline. And then 6 to 9 months after is your rebasing and a permanent reline. Does that make sense? Immediately for sore spots, then a temporary reline for soft tissues, then a reline after few weeks, and a rebase after 6 to 9 months. Is that clear for everyone? Immediate sore spots removal, then few weeks after soft tissue reline temporary. After that, few weeks, a self-cure acrylic reline, and then 6 to 9 months rebasing with your heat cure material. Okay. Now comes your occlusal schemes. What kind of occlusal schemes we give in your dentures? Now, denture only has balanced occlusion. Everybody knows that. But I want to also take this class as an opportunity to teach you mutually protected, your lateral excursions, your protrusions, incisal guidance, and your canine guided and group function. All of them. Although I did talk about in our second or third part of prosto also, right? But I think I will go a little bit more elaborate, and it would be like a revision of the occlusion because many candidates struggle in that. So everyone is excited to learn about occlusion now. So balanced occlusion is an occlusal scheme in which there is a simultaneous, remember the word simultaneous. Simultaneous tooth contact happens on both working side and balancing side. What is the balancing side? Non-working side. And what is the working side? The chewing side. Basically, wherever you are chewing or doing a lateral excursion, that's your working side. And the opposite side becomes your non-working side or your balancing side. Is that clear? Right? So balanced occlusion is an occlusal scheme. I'll go slow, okay? But don't ask questions, try to receive. I will go slow. Balanced occlusion is an occlusal scheme in which simultaneous tooth contacts occur on both the working as well as the non-working sides during centric and during eccentric mandibular movements. So centric, everybody knows centric occlusion or centric relationship in denture, right? So in centric, your posteriors meet and your anteriors meet. But in your dentate mouth, people with teeth, when you do centric, only posteriors meet and anterior don't meet. Yes or no, please? In your patients who have teeth, it is a mutually protected occlusion in anterior, in your centric as well as eccentric. But in dentures or bilaterally balanced occlusion, even in centric and your eccentric ones, which is your protrusion and your lateral excursions, both sides are simultaneously meeting. So in centric, it would be anterior and posteriors. And in eccentric, it would be working side and non-working side. Does that make sense? In centric, posteriors will meet and so will anteriors. And in eccentric movements, which is your lateral excursion or protrusion, your working side as well as non-working side both meet. Now in denture, when the patient protrudes, protrusion means anteriors are brought edge to edge. Is that correct? In that case, in protrusion, in a bilaterally balanced occlusion, your anteriors will come edge to edge, but your posteriors will not go out of contact. They will still remain in contact, even if on the tips. Clear for everyone? So in protrusion, anteriors are brought in contact edge to edge, but posteriors still remain in contact, just like your centric, how your posteriors are in contact, but anteriors are also in contact for stability, to prevent movement, to prevent rocking, to prevent lifting, to prevent lack of retention, to prevent tipping of denture. No matter how they put it in exam, it is for everything. For retention, for stability, to prevent rocking, to prevent interferences. Crystal clear or not for everyone? It is mainly used in your complete dentures because bilateral contacts will help in stabilize your denture and prevent the tipping during chewing or jaw movements. It is beneficial for denture stability, right? But it is not given in your natural dentition. Because if in your natural dentition you create bilaterally balanced occlusion, it creates unnecessary harmful interferences and excessive forces on teeth and temporomandibular joint. It will then become a traumatic bite. Understood or not? Unnecessary contacts in natural dentition are not required because they will put load on teeth and joint. Tell me big yes if bilaterally balanced occlusion is clear for everyone. I will show you more as well. Okay. Then comes your mutually protected occlusion. Now, mutually protected occlusion is a broader occlusal concept in which posterior teeth protect the anterior teeth in your centric occlusion by taking the vertical chewing forces, while anterior teeth protect posterior teeth during excursive movements by disoccluding them. How? So mutually protected, think like it's a natural dentate situation. It is not done in dentures. Dentures is balanced. Natural dentition is mutually protected occlusion. So when in centric occlusion, posteriors will come in contact, anteriors are not in contact. And when you are doing excursive movements, whether lateral excursions or protrusions, anterior teeth come in contact and posteriors are disoccluded. Understood? Opposite of your balanced occlusion. So in dentate and natural teeth, anterior teeth protects posterior on protrusion and lateral excursions, and posterior teeth protect anterior teeth on centric occlusion. Am I clear? I'm trying to really break it down, very simplify it. I hope it is helping. So one type of mutually protected occlusion is canine guided occlusion. Another type of mutually protected occlusion is your group function. So canine guided occlusion, canine is one of the form of mutually protected occlusion where canine guide the mandibular movements and prevent the posterior teeth coming in contact and prevents the posterior interferences. See this here? This is canine guided. On lateral excursion, only canines are coming in contact. Neither your incisors or your molars are coming in contact in your lateral excursion. Clear for everyone? And if it was protrusion, only incisors would come in contact and posteriors will be disoccluded. Yes or no, please? Is this picture clear enough for you to understand? Okay. So this is an occlusal scheme. It is where during the lateral mandibular movements, only canines on the working side remain on contact. All the posterior teeth are disoccluding. This can be supported in a natural dentition. Why? Because canine has long roots, strong periodontal support. They are well positioned to tolerate the lateral forces. They are the corner teeth. Right? The main advantage of canine guidance is that it protects posterior teeth from damaging horizontal stresses and reduces the muscle activity during excursions. It takes the load also from the muscles, the TM joint, and the posterior teeth. Another type of mutually protected occlusion is your group function. Now, it is also a variation of a mutually protected and also used in your dentate patients where multiple teeth on the working side. Now, canine guided on lateral excursion, only canine is coming in contact. Is that correct? Is that correct? In canine guided on lateral excursion, only canine is coming in contact. But in group function, it is an occlusal scheme where multiple teeth on the working side along with the canine and premolars and sometimes molars also incorporated, they contact during the lateral movement but only on the working side, still not on the non-working side, because non-working side if also came in contact, that will make it a bilaterally balanced. In natural dentition we don't want that, so only working side should come in contact. Can you see it here now? It's your natural dentate situation where canine along with premolars and molars on that working side is coming on contact and the non-working side is disoccluded. Yes or no, please? This is all crucial and you are getting ADC questions in exam like this on your articulating papers, on your teeth markings. If you don't understand occlusions, you cannot answer these ADC questions. It is so crucial. All right. So group function shares the lateral forces together of your canine along with your guiding movement. It can be possible when canine guidance is not possible, right? It is usually preferred where canine guidance is not possible, either due to missing canine or due to worn off canines or periodontally compromised canines. Absolutely correct, Ish, Money, everyone. So it helps distribute occlusal forces across several teeth and can provide functional stability in certain patients with prosthesis in this area. All right. So this is your group function. Now, bilaterally balanced occlusion and its articulation in complete denture. Now I want to show you pictures of bilaterally balanced occlusion in action so that you never forget that. In thousands also, I tried to show you with my own teeth. We tried as best as we could, but today we got pictures so you could see bilaterally balanced occlusion in action here. All right. So bilaterally balanced occlusion refers to bilateral even contact between upper and lower denture teeth during lateral excursions, protrusive movements, and posterior and anterior in your intercuspal or centric position. Right? Is that correct? So bilateral contact between your upper denture and lower denture teeth in your lateral and protrusive movements, as well as in your intercuspal position, both upper and lower teeth in posteriors and anteriors come in contact. So can you see this picture now? All of this? So A picture is your maximal intercuspal position. Can you see that? So can you see up till anteriors, the contact, up till laterals, the contact is maintained in dentures. So anteriors are sharing that load with the posteriors, unlike your dentate situation, right? Slight contact is given in your anteriors as well. You can see maximal intercuspal position on picture A. Picture B is your working side contact. Now it is picture taken on B side. So suppose the patient is doing lateral excursion on this right side. This is the patient's right side, right? And you see on the right side, all the teeth are meeting. Working contacts are there, right? Now on the same movement on B, the picture was taken from the non-working side, which is the C picture, which is a non-working side. Now can you see the tips of the cusps are still in contact? So working side and non-working side are maintaining the contact, right? And now D is your protrusion. So when you bring the jaw in protrusion, incisors are meeting, but posteriors are also meeting. Now this will protect your denture from tipping and destabilizing. So this is a very important factor for stability of your denture as well as your prevention of tipping and looseness. Crystal clear or not now? You want to see the picture one more time? Yes? Now you will never forget these pictures and now you will never forget the bilaterally balanced occlusion. So beautiful, Carolyn, right? Isn't that always true? You will only see your mind, your eyes can only see what your mind knows. So even in exam, they gave you these pictures and ask you what these pictures are or what this position is. Unless your mind understands these concepts, they will not be seeing it, even if it lies in front of your eyes, right? So knowing and understanding is crucial. Now, what is the significance? Let me just reiterate it one more time. Significance of balanced occlusion is it is highly desirable in dentures because occlusal forces are distributed more evenly to the alveolar ridges. So there is not just benefit of stabilizing the denture and prevention the tipping. It also makes sure that all the forces are distributed evenly to your ridges. And this even distribution of forces can help reduce soreness of the alveolar mucosa. Yes or no, please? Does that make sense or not biologically? And simultaneous contacts improve the denture stability during the function. Dentures are less likely to tip or become destabilized during excursive mandibular movements, and it enhances retention by maintaining harmonious tooth contacts rather than allowing uneven contacts, which can dislodge the dentures. So, what are the clinical considerations of this? It achieves your also it can only be achieved once you have ideal jaw relations. Accurate jaw relations are so important for your bilaterally balanced occlusion, especially your vertical dimension and your RCP position. Because if you're not recording correct vertical and correct RCP, patient will keep biting your maximal intercuspation in different positions, and that will lead to interferences. Yes or no, please? So RCP, correct centric relationship, and correct vertical dimension, both are crucial. So that is why jaw relation should be transferred to an articulator for arrangement of teeth. It cannot be done on study models. It has to be achieved on at least semi-adjustable articulator. Exam will ask you that. What is the minimum articulator you will use? It would require semi-adjustable. You would use Facebook records, you will use your lateral excursions and everything to record mandible in its RCP. All right? And proper tooth arrangement and then articulation will is essential to give the patient the comfort, the stability, and efficient denture function. Does that make sense for everyone? That is the bread and butter of your complete dentures. RCP in dentures, Simran, is what? Maximum intercuspation in your denture is RCP only, no Simran. This is RCP only. This is maximal intercuspation, but in a denture patient, maximal intercuspation is coinciding with the RCP. Yes or no, Simran? Does that make sense? Right? All right. So let's start our second chapter, which is occlusal changes that happen following teeth loss. Now, this is not purely complete denture, but this is still prosto because it might require removable partial dentures or FPD concepts. So I just brought this in the last lecture to completely sum it up with your other occlusal challenges. So we know that occlusal is not a static relationship after tooth loss, right? After the loss of teeth happen, occlusal does not remain static. It starts to change, it starts to undergo adaptive changes, and it re-establishes itself functionally in the mouth without you doing anything. All right. So these changes can be compensatory, but over time they can result in significant alterations to the occlusal scheme, and which can bring the challenges to the restorative, periodontal, and functional problems. Do you all agree with that? Initial changes can be adaptive biologically, but then eventually becoming a problem for your patient, both restoration wise, periodontally, as well as functionality wise. So extent of these changes depends upon duration of tooth loss, right? Patient's age, existing occlusal scheme, presence of parafunctional habits, what is the remaining periodontal support of the remaining dentition. When tooth gets lost and doesn't get replaced, the surrounding dentition tends to move into the available spaces, resulting in the following biological responses: mesial drift, supraeruption, and rotations and secondary tooth movements. Is that correct? These are the three changes that happen once you lose teeth. So what are the occlusal? What are the mesial drift changes that you see? So mesial drift is a natural tendency of any natural tooth to migrate mesially throughout the life, right? We have read that in all the erupting teeth, in the mixed dentition, right? Space management. This is a natural tendency, and we have utilized it to intervene with your occlusal corrections in the mixed dentition also. It's a natural exhibit of a natural tooth to migrate mesially throughout life. So following extraction, the adjacent tooth will frequently tilt into its edentulous space, which can lead to loss of its axial inclination. Is that correct? It will lose its axial inclination and there will be partial space encroachment, less cleansability, so food impaction. We have SBQs on that. We have SBQs on mesial drift. We have SBQs on food impaction. We have SBQs on occlusal interferences, trauma from occlusion, pain on biting in the areas, right? Then it also poses difficulty in replacing the missing tooth because of the space encroachment. Other problem that happens is supraeruption. In the absence of an opposing tooth, eruption can continue beyond the occlusal space, occlusal plane. Now, degree of the over eruption can be variable and it can be either tooth moving alone or alveolar bone movement together. Anyone remember classic ADC SBQ in combination syndrome where the upper teeth extruded in the maxilla where the mandible was lower distal extension and along with the tooth extrusion the entire bone got extruded with it, alveolar bone extrusion. Remember everybody, we did it in our internal classes in the UF2 classes. Dento alveolar extrusion, beautiful, entire segment, beautiful, came in exam 2 Madni, beautiful. This is exactly why we are doing these sessions. So anything in exam doesn't feel foreign to you, doesn't feel alien to you. That's the Winsport promise, right? So now tell me, this is clinically significant because it can lead to reduced restorative space, altered occlusal plane, and premature contacts. So it is important to be addressed. Other things that can happen is rotation and secondary tooth movements, right? It may migrate, it may rotate, it can disrupt arch form and contact relationships. Even proximal contacts can get disrupted. Again, embrage, exactly ish, beautiful. Contact point loss is the most important drawback of rotations, right? And it can become your plaque trapping site and food impaction sites. So, what are the clinical consequences if you don't treat the missing tooth? Right? So, consequences are not just aesthetic, it can lead to occlusal consequences. Altered tooth positions can produce premature contacts, deflective contacts, occlusal interferences, loss of harmonious mandibular movement as well. Interferences in mandibular movement can come in or not. In your lateral excursions, in your protrusions, your natural teeth can start causing hindrances. And due to this, patient can subsequently develop an unstable occlusion. Such unstable occlusion can give you high laterally directed forces also. It can give you high forces acting on the teeth and can become a traumatic occlusion. And it can lead to trauma from occlusion. Beautifulish. What are the restorative consequences? If you don't replace the missing tooth, it also becomes difficult to uh, even replace the tooth later on because of the space encroachment, right? Loss of space will happen, inadequate crown height will be present, poor path of insertion for prosthesis, limited interocclusal clearance because of supraeruptions. So, all this can challenge restorative consequences also or not. So, occlusal interferences can also majorly affect your excursion and free movement of mandible. Is that correct? Now let's understand occlusion a little bit more because I want you to leave today's class as occlusion specialists. Any question in exam about occlusion shouldn't scare you, but rather excite you and give you the confidence that you know it best. And these are coming not just in prosto, but also in your ortho questions. So understanding all these occlusal relationships is important for your orthodontic questions as well. So let's talk about your static occlusion positions, which is your intercuspal position, right? And your RCP. We talked about it. Intercuspal position is the mandible where the maximum contact exists between upper and lower teeth. It is your maximal intercuspation. Yes or no, please. It is also referred to as patient's habitual bite. Most restorative treatment in your dentate patients you carry out in your maximal intercuspation or your intercuspal position. Even if it is not coinciding with the centric relation or retruded contact position, in your dentate patients, you will carry out most of the work in ICP. Yes or no, please? You don't try to train your dentate patients to do in retruded contact position, do you? No, right? So it is a stable dentition, it is a reproducible position in dentate patients, and it is a comfortable position for the patient. Agreed or not? It is also like in class 3, you will see patients have this, adapted habitual bite. In class 2, also patients can have this protruded habitual maximal intercuspation. So in class 2 and class 3, you can see are different habits. Some patients can have an habitual class 3, a pseudo class 3. Remember that? Reading it in your undergrads also, a pseudo class 3, where it's just a habitual maximal intercuspation in class 3 in protrusion, but it is not your ideal jaw relation or your RCP, right? That's your pseudo class 3. That happens or no? You're all aware of that, right? So your retruded contact position is a fixed position of mandible in which the teeth first make contact. So even patients who have habitual ICP will still, the first contact in their mandible will also still be RCP. After that, there is a slide. Yes or no, please? And you can all try in your own mouth. You have that. Open your mouth and then bring it back. You will first bring it in your RCP naturally. Open your mouth fully and then bring it, close it. That is your most retruded position. And then your mandible slides into your intercuspal position. We all have that, don't we? 1 to 2 mm of slide, right? So all dentate patients will first time make first teeth contact in your RCP, and then your mandible slides into, right, your maximal tooth intercuspation. Okay, so your RCP, you still have it. It will come handy when we all get dentures, okay? So our body will retain it for our denture situation. Yes, after slide is your habitual bite into ICP. Did you all notice that? Did you all try that? I tried it too right now as well. I tried it while I was preparing the class as well. But did you all try it right now to learn that concept that how you open your mouth, bring it and bite? That's your RCP. That's what you will give you to your dentist when you're getting your dentures made. But while you're dentate, your mandible will come into a habitual maximal intercuspation. Okay. So ICP is a dental bite. You can say that, and RCP is a mandibular skeletal bite. Can we kind of say that, right? What is the relationship between ICP and RCP? In many individuals, it will not coincide. Agreed or not? In many individuals, it will not coincide. Following the initial contact in RCP, the mandible slides into your ICP, intercuspal position. Now, what is the magnitude and what is the direction of the slide? It can influence the occlusal stability and it can contribute to the development of occlusal interferences. Natural dentition patients also have interferences. Agreed or not? Some of the teeth supraerupted, some of the teeth may not be. Their maximal intercuspation may not even have all the molars in contact, and that brings an interference, and that is a traumatic bite. Yes, ICP is MIP. Now, what is your dynamic occlusion? So, dynamic occlusions are your protrusive, lateral excursions, and opening closing movements. Agreed? And then there is anterior guidance, Anterior guidance refers to the influence of the anterior teeth on mandibular movement during protrusive and lateral excursions. Everybody understands what is anterior guidance? It is influence of your palatal inclines of incisors which guides your mandible into protrusive movement. Clear for everyone? It is determined by patient's incisor relationship, overbite and overjet. During the protrusive movements, anterior guidance comes in role. And during an lateral excursion, canine guidance comes in role. Agreed? Clear or not? As the mandible moves forward, anterior teeth remain in contact and posterior should separate, indentate situation. Right? Anterior guidance is important. Why? Because it protects the posterior teeth during mandibular movement, protrusion, and reduces the lateral forces on your posterior restorations, minimizes occlusal interferences, contributes to long-term occlusal stability. So it is a mutually protected occlusion. Agreed or not, everybody? Is all your occlusion now coming together? Then comes your lateral excursions. It is the side-to-side movement of the mandible. The side where the mandible moves is known as the working side or laterotrusive side, where the opposite side is known as your non-working side or mediotrusive side, right? Contacts are only made on the working side in dentate patients, right? Non-working side should not have contact in dentate patients. Do we all agree with that? Non-working sites should not have any contacts on non or in your dentate patients. If there are non-working side contacts in lateral excursion, you would call it a Nitya. You get that word from my mouth. Side non-working side interferences. Agreed? All right. This is an interference then. So that is your lateral excursions occlusal scheme. What are the two types? Can anyone write? I taught you now. What are the two types of dynamic lateral excursion occlusion in dentate patients? One is your canine guided, other is your group function. Now comes our overdentures. So now tell me, we are done halfway into the class. How was occlusion now? Who all are scared of occlusion still? Who all understand bilaterally balanced, canine guided, anterior guidance, group function, protrusion, lateral excursions, ICP, RCP, maximal intercuspation, everything that goes around in occlusion? Now tell me, does anything scare you? That's beautiful. If you revise the class one more time, you will never ever be scared of occlusions. Okay? Yes, absolutely revisions are needed. Now let's talk about anterior guidance is your protrusive occlusion. It's a dynamic occlusion, Madni, but it's a protrusive occlusion. Canine guidance is a lateral excursion. So both are dynamic, but they are separate. Anterior is in protrusion, canine guidance is in laterotrusive movement. Okay? One is sideways, one is forward. Madni, clear for you? Yes, absolutely, Rifna. This is 1,000 prosto classes plus top it up with these prosto series. Ultimate combination. All right, let's talk about overdentures. Overdenture is a removable prosthesis that covers and is supported by one or more remaining natural teeth, tooth roots, or second, what happened? All right. So overdenture is a prosthesis, it's a removable denture. Yes, it will be added to hot notes, Aisha. Absolutely. Even after today's class only, I will be adding it. It has been already added to the study plan as well. That updated study plan also I will upload on the drive. Overdenture is a removable prosthesis which covers and is supported by one or more remaining natural teeth, right? Or tooth roots, or either by implant. Unlike a conventional complete denture, overdenture preserves selected teeth or roots beneath the denture base, providing additional support, stability, and proprioception. Now, when all the teeth get extracted, you lose all the PDL, which results in the loss of proprioception. Alveolar bone also undergoes progressive resorption, especially in the mandible. You have reduced residual ridge height, so that decreases your denture stability and support. And patients has difficulty adapting to complete denture. So these are your challenges which you face after all teeth get extracted. But by strategically retaining some of the teeth or roots, your overdentures can help you preserve the bone, the structure, and improve the function. All right. Now, what is the clinical significance of it? So, when you have severe tooth wear because of parafunctional habits, right, on the remaining teeth, they can act as potential abutments, right? Excessively worn dentition can act as your potential abutment. But to an extent where little coronal tissue still remain, overdentures can be used to restore the appearance. Now, the worn teeth either may require elective RCTs to be prepared till the gingival margin, that means only root retention, or sometimes a little bit of crown height can also be retained depending upon the situation. So limited amount of crown height can also be retained, but given that it should not interfere with the existing vertical dimension, right? So if there is a sufficient amount of space between the maxilla and mandible, that means enough VDR and freeway space is there. So you can have thicker denture. There you can allow the worn teeth completely left there or give copings on those worn teeth, right? Or you can also incorporate attachments. So either you retain the whole teeth if the vertical dimension allows, or you retain roots, and that is your overdenture. What are the complications with your overdenture? Now, the complications and potential challenges that you can face is canine eminence. If the patient's canine eminence is prominent, it can become an undercut because it's a bony prominent side. It will make it impossible to extend the flange over the canine area because it will become an undercut in relation to path of insertion of the denture, right? And in dentate patients, usually canine eminence is prominent. So any flange that you make in this area can be a problem. So what is your first challenge in overdenture is the canine eminence. Other challenges, parafunctional habit. Patients who have tooth wear caused by parafunctional habit, they also increase the risk of fracture of the base plate. Because if it's because of parafunctional habit, that denture can fracture. And you can combat that by adding some metal backed base plate, which can reduce the possibility of fracture but does not completely eliminate it. Another challenge with your overdenture is tolerating increased vertical dimension because the dentures are a little bit bulky, so it will add on to the vertical dimension. Although in these patients who have chronic tooth wear, they have tolerance for increased video. We all have seen that, right? Because of the proprioception as well, dentate patients can tolerate slightly increased video, but not too much. Okay? Edentulous patients will lack such receptors, and that is why any changes in vertical dimension in edentulous patients cannot be tolerated. Another risk that you can have is the fracture of the denture base. Yes, we are talking about tooth supported only, right? And these are certain partial denture situations as well. Some we are talking about overdenture on the retained roots. Some we are also talking about partial denture where we are taking support from some natural remaining teeth. Other challenge is that it can lead to loss of vitality of the roots or teeth. So sometimes you might have to do your elective RCTs. There is also a risk of caries on these abutments. Medium or long-term complication of using teeth as overdenture can lead to increased caries risk. That's why a complete oral hygiene assessment and diet assessment and caries susceptibility risk should be done before suggesting such dentures in these patients. Now, what are the steps or stages in making this conventional overdenture? First, you will take your initial primary impression, right? And your initial impressions should be ideal. They should not be neglected because that dictates the fabrication of your special tray. So avoid any errors in your primary impression situation. Because there are teeth involved, so it's best to use your silicone or polyether impression materials. They are more resilient, they are more resistant to dimensional changes, right? Then after that, you will take an interocclusal record, just like your conventional denture. You will take vertical relationship. Now, vertical relationship, if you are retaining the teeth, can be of two types, conformative or reorganized. If you are retaining the original occlusion, right? If you are retaining the original vertical dimension and not raising it in worn teeth, especially in RPDs, that's called your conformative approach. And if you're bringing it back to the ideal vertical dimension, then it is called a reorganized approach. Correct? Then you will do your teeth setup, after anterior teeth setup, and then try-in stage and fit of the denture stage. Now, when you do the fit of the denture stage, what are the adjustments and investigations you would do? You will check the Fosby rule. Everyone remembers the Fosby rule? Which is you will check the fit of the denture, then you will check the occlusion, no interferences, and then you will check the soft tissues, should be free of any soft, your sore spots, and then you will check the extent of the borders. Is that correct? And that is how you will completely assess your denture, fit, occlusion, soft tissues, and then border in this sequence, because in exam you keep getting all these options and you have to sequence it. Now comes another challenging situation in your dentures and in ADC SBQs of an edentulous maxilla, right? Where maxillary arch is completely edentulous and it undergoes a series of anatomical and functional changes which affects retention, stability, support, and overall success. Have you seen these questions? Roots are alveolar support, proprioception, stability, and retention Magni. Combination syndrome. So, maxillary edentulism with remaining natural mandibular anterior teeth. When an edentulous maxillary arch is long opposed by remaining natural lower teeth, there is a specific type of bone resorption that occurs. There is concentrated forces acting on the anterior maxillary ridge excessively, right? It causes the underlying bone to resorb and be replaced by your displaceable fibrous flabby tissue. That is known as your flabby tissue or a flabby ridge. This is a hyperplastic tissue, right? Is that correct? It is hyperplastic tissue. It doesn't have strong, stable, bony ridge foundation, and that is why it makes conventional denture highly unstable and prone to your tipping during functional movements. Is that correct? That is the challenges that you face. Denture is unstable and prone to tipping during functional movements. Now let's see this with a clinical example of this patient. It's a 60-year-old man who came with an increasingly unstable denture. So the chief complaint is denture is unstable. He revealed all his upper teeth were extracted 8 years ago. His upper denture was made immediately after teeth were pulled and has already been replaced twice. On examination, he has his lower back teeth missing. His lower front teeth are still there and they are restored with a bridge. Can you appreciate that? And lower teeth distal extension has not been replaced. So all the forces are taken by the anterior part of the denture. All the mandibular forces are concentrating there. So these lower teeth are healthy and strong, which means they bite down with full force directly against the part of the front part of his upper denture. And that force is taken by the anterior maxilla. Now, because he only has natural lower front teeth, every time he chews or bites, heavy forces are concentrating and smashing him straight into the front of his upper denture. And that has given him a flabby edentulous upper ridge. Now, before you start any treatment for such flabby ridges, you have to do clinical assessment. Clinical assessment of flabby tissue is extremely important. When it comes to flabby tissue, till now, everyone is only aware of, okay, do a window technique, take a flowable impression material, preferably your mucostatic flowable PVS, right, Snigdha? That's all we know as far as now. Till now, we only know this much. But today, we learn little bit extra for exam, which is where to do surgery, where not to do surgery, where to keep it with a mucostatic impression, where not. All right? Because that selection is not as easy as it may sound. So do you want to learn more concepts around that? That requires certain degree of assessment. First thing is check the degree of tissue mobility of this tissue. So you will gently press and palpate the ridge to map out exactly where the soft tissue starts and how much it moves. So first assessment is the tissue mobility assessment. Is that clear for everyone? If it moves a lot, a normal impression tray will squish it, which will result a denture which will constantly spring out of place, tissue rebound. That is a mucocompressive impression. We don't want that. So that helps us, first of all, mobility helps us that it requires a special impression technique. Now, it is difficult to overcome the mobility of your fibrous ridge, right? But the denture base on this fibrous ridge still needs to be well supported. So that is why buccal flange should be made to the full depth of the sulcus, especially in this area. You will check for the extent of buccal flanges. Second assessment. Peripheral extensions here will contribute more to the retention and stability than the ridges themselves because of the fibrous tissue. That is why borders and buccal flange and buccal sulcus depth should be assessed. Yes or no? The second assessment is clear. Then you will review the current denture to determine the peripheral extensions, the borders, the edges of the patient's existing dentures must be checked. If the denture does not have full extension into the sulcus or around the tuberosity, retention will be naturally compromised or not. So when the ridges are already a challenge, you make sure at least the peripheral extensions are up to date in this denture. Patient is coming to you, you at least check that the extensions and the periphery is not a problem. Post dam is not a problem. So check that posterior extension, sulcus extension, everything is suitable. Because sometimes the problem will not be the fibrous tissue, but rather because it doesn't cover enough area or it doesn't extend completely into the sulcus. Now, what are the possible treatment options? One is to take a window technique impression, which we all know. Other is to give an implant supported prosthesis. So don't do the surgery of the tissue, but give implant as abutments and improve stability and retention. And third is surgical realignment. These are the three treatment options. Don't think window technique is the only answer. Implant supported is also answer. Surgical realignment is also an answer, but that requires case selection. Most common approach, and the first approach should be window technique, ideally, because it's conventional and it's traditional and it's non-invasive. You will create a two-part special tray. Main part of the special tray, you will leave window open. On that, you will use your acetylsilicones or a flowable wash impression using zinc oxide eugenol, which is also very flowable and records a static impression, or your acetylsilicones. This will record your soft ridge in its completely relaxed state, static state, so the finished denture does not squeeze it and there is no rebound effect. Clear for everyone? Yes or no, please? This is your first technique and treatment modality. Second treatment is implant supported prosthesis. If the patient has sufficient width and height of the bone, implants can be given. It may not be on the anterior maxilla, but in the canine area, you can have sufficient width and height behind this. Acetylsilicones, flowable acetylsilicones are best. If bone height and width is not sufficient, then bone augmentation may be necessary, which will increase the cost and surgical experience of the patient. That is why find if there is sufficient bone width and height, then only the implant treatment will work. You can give two types of implant supported overdenture, either with two fixtures, which are given in canine region, or you give 4 or 6 fixtures. That is expensive. So most cost effective solution is two fixture in the canine region, which is suitable for retention and stability. Do we all agree with that? Right? So two fixture overdenture with implants in canine region and maxilla is a most cost effective and functional solution. No, not necessary, Punita. Flabby tissue doesn't have to be removed. You have to give it in the canine region, right? And see that the bone height and width should be there. Now comes the surgical realignment where you don't give implant and don't take window technique also. Don't keep flabby tissue also. You remove and surgically excise the flabby tissue and create a firm base. However, there is a downside to it. Don't think it's as easy as said. It can be surgically cut away to create a firm base, yes. But in certain patients, it can be too much that if you remove the flabby tissue, it completely flattens the ridge absolutely. It can ruin the natural suction which is needed to hold an upper denture in place, making that a risky choice. So surgery is not always best because tissue still provides certain undercuts for suction. When you remove that, you lose undercuts and you create a flat base on which the retention is still compromised. Agreed? And that is why most common approach is your window technique modified conventional denture approach. Second preference should be given to implant supported prosthesis. And last should be surgical realignment because in most cases ridges are too far below and it loses the depth and loses and gives a very flat base. And that, my dear, is the end of our very great prosto series. Thank you so much, everyone, for your contribution. I would say polyether for implants, Vigna. Absolutely that. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Zinc oxide eugenol can only be used in the window technique when there is no teeth there. It's because it's a wash impression. All right, so that is it today, and I hope we survived through our technical difficulties. And yeah, thank you. That concludes our prosto series. I have to tell you some things that I will be posting a kind of like a complete denture practice SBQ on Facebook right now, and then I am bringing a specialized prosto series mock on all these series. That is only for our enrolled candidates. So if you haven't joined us yet and you're thinking for March 27 or for crash course or for full course also, please join us. We are still, although we are halfway, but the fun has only begun. The challenges have only begun. The great mocks are coming. There's the entire Prosto series specialized mocks which are coming up, and then there is Ortho series that will be coming up. There will be a specialized TG drug regime, three mocks which would be coming up, 150 questions on just TG drugs and practicing. So yeah, lot is happening, lot of action. And I'm tired now. As always, after Prosto class trains me entirely. These Prosto series have become the most exhausting uh, classes we've ever taken, I think, in our public sessions. Light body, yes. Polyether is only for your implant situation. It has more it is rigid. It although it has flexibility, but it has higher tear strength compared to PVS jazz. That is why polyether is preferred over your metal abutments for impressions because of the tear strength, which is stronger in polyether. I did, Rifna, and I hope that preparation showed, and I hope it helped you all. And the concepts were simplified and broken down into simpler bite size for you all to also receive and learn and understand during the class itself. That's the main purpose of it. So overdenture canine eminence is actually when you retain the canine tooth. So the root has this eminence, right? And then underneath there is an undercut in the sulcus. So if you retain that canine, that is very prominent and it acts as a natural undercut that can interfere with the denture insertion. Thank you so much, Sarah. I will request you all PVS jazz for flabby denture because we don't have implants there. For window technique, PVS is silicone. That is a mucostatic technique. Please review all the parts of Frosto series. I would say not just FPD series, do RPD series revision, do your implant series revision, and then combination syndrome classes and denture troubleshooting, and then this FPD and CD series. And then, yes, you will be covering, I think, entirely whole of prosto required for ADC. That goes clearly. I can say that confidently now. I barely have voice to continue with all. I think after all my FPD series classes, I'm like gone. My voice is gone. Yes, it is. When you take a conventional secondary impression in your special trays, Madni, that is another technique. Zinc oxide eugenol is a wash technique. It doesn't compresses, right? It doesn't compress the tissue. It's a wash impression. Wash impression means, and then selective pressure in special trays is created by creating stops. Remember, Madni, when you do conventional dentures, so the pressure is created by your stops in your special trays, not through your ZOE. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for being fabulous, fabulous audience that you always are. And yeah, keep. So we finished our hot notes classes, and just to revise and just to reiterate, this weekend we are starting our TG revision classes for our enrolled candidates. So even the crash course candidates who did not get my classes, they will have the opportunity to learn TG during the live classes with our tutors. So they will start this weekend on Saturday and Sunday every week till exam now. Every weekend you will have TG revision classes with tutors. Yes, all this has been added to plan and I will be uploading the updated plan soon. Yes, it has been all the new topics. They will be added to Hot Notes. They will be added to plan. They have been added to plan. Hot Notes are ready too. They will be now published on the app and the plan will also get uploaded. The thing is, I hope you went through Odell Mind Maps. Thank you for giving such great response on that. Ortho series will be coming, I think, from the third week of July or probably, yeah, third week of July. I want to keep it closer to exam so you retain all those concepts. Dr. Bhavya and Dr. Akus will be taking Ananya, your TG revision classes this week. Both classes are by Dr. Bhavya and Dr. Akus will also be joining from the following week. Yes, they are absolutely Abhirami. Next public session would be next week. We are also bringing our public mock. Actually, sorry, I forgot to announce about it. Got so carried away. So we have our public mock coming up this week. And please download our app. You have our free course, free resources. So anyone who's not enrolled with us, we are bringing this monthly free mocks. So you can get our free mock for the month of July. It will be released on 3rd of July. So you can sign up, get our app, enroll for the free course, and the mock will be there on 3rd of July. And then next week we will have discussion class on your July mock. All right. Yeah. And it's a very hard one. Just to give you a little preview that this is going to be like a challenging type mock. We have set question difficulty level towards a little higher side just to give you a little bit of midway challenge. All right, thank you so much, guys. So the details to download our app and get the free mock are there on the chat. My team has shared that. So if you're not enrolled with us, please download the app and get the free course. And if you're enrolled with us, it will be also made available to our enrolled candidates under their paid courses itself. Okay? And then next week we will have on Tuesday our mock discussion. It is all multidisciplinary, Maria. All the subjects would be covered. The surgery, the prosto, the operative, the perio, every bit. It's a wholesome multidisciplinary mock, and towards a difficulty level is kept a little bit higher. Thank you so much, Ish. All right, thank you so much, guys. I'll take your leave and I'll see you on Thursday. We meet for our yet another UF2 class and we do our next pages and move ahead in our preparation. Thank you so much. Bye. Good night.